Hey, hello everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and welcome to this episode, which is going to be on the disappearance of Haleigh Cummings, and that was back in 2009. And wow, I did a lot of shows when this thing came out. I mean, let me show you. I just did. I did so many Nancy Grace shows. I can't even count how many I did on this case. I don't even remember the other shows I did on it, but there I am on Nancy Grace, and then here I am again on Nancy Grace on the Haleigh case, and it was one of Nancy Grace's. Outside of Casey Anthony, the top mom, this was a huge case, and Nancy really was on this every night. So it was very big. And then after a period of time, it sort of just vanished from the news. And now it's 13 years later. And the reason I'm bringing it up now is because Daddy, Ronald Cummings, I just found this out, although I'm a month late. He got out of prison last month because he'd been in there pretty much since she went missing. Not because she went missing, but because he's a drug dealer. And so he just got out. And so I'll talk about that in a minute. But that's what brought my interest back. I saw it and went, oh my God, he's out. And what's been happening with the case of Haleigh Cummings? Because I hadn't heard about it in forever. So let me, before I go on, let me welcome everybody who's in the chat room. Let's see who's here. I know some of you really have been involved with Haleigh Cummings' case years ago. And while I'm doing this, do tell me if you can see and hear me properly so that I don't continue on without doing so. Sarah is here. Annie is here. And yes, Annie, I did enjoy my second Thanksgiving meal today. That's a Jamaican style one. So salt fish and flitters and curry goat. Michaela is here. Tammy is here. And she said, you can't wait for this show. All right. You know this one. Lisa N is here, and Ann is here. Lisa S is here. AV is here. Let's see. Oh, AV said you had to brush up on the details. Yes, I do recommend if you're just showing up now and you're like, I don't know anything about this case. There's not much out there. In a lot of cases have so many, 2-hour segments on so many shows. What you'll find is a ton of different small segments on Nancy Grace and other shows like that. And they're very interesting because you'll hear a lot of the suspects and family members, which might be the same thing, speaking. And they're on talk shows and just talking away and fascinating stuff. So you want to hear them speak out for themselves. Yeah, check that out. But if you just want a basic, just run through on it. Pretty much Kendall Ray is the only one that has anything. It says 41 minutes. And so she goes through the basic details of this case. And so I'd recommend that to just sort of catch up on everything. I will give you a shorter version here because, I'm here to analyze the case and not give a story about the case. But I'm going to have to introduce you to all the characters before I can actually say, hey, here's what happened and here's the interesting points about it and what should one look at to analyze the case. So it's a crazy case. That's all I can say about it. And crazy people. Let's see who else is here. We have AV is here. I might have said some of your names. Sarah's here. Michaela. Let's see. I'm going back upwards now. Lynette is here. Elizabeth is here. Welcome, Elizabeth. I think you're newer here. Christiane is here. Molly's here. I think I might have said CJ, but I'm not sure. This is where I start repeating everything. But anyway, I can't catch everybody in here, but welcome everybody who is here. And if you would like to be in the chat room, our wonderful chat room, please do come to the chat room. And it is a patron-only chat room. And I do that because it keeps it to be a friendly chat room. I've only ever had to block one person. And you might ask, were they a psychopath? Yes, that's why they were blocked. But I have a lot of control over making sure the community is good. And I haven't had any problems except for that one person. So anyway, you can join Patreon and be part of all the chats, all the live shows all month long. Or just, hey, if you just want to support the channel and want to know what's going on, subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of the shows coming up. And you can also buy books below. And that's one of my fiction book, Only the Truth. It's a psychological mystery. It's very cheap. It's at Amazon, and I think you'll really enjoy it. And also there's a super thanks button if you appreciate the show. And that's that. And let's get to the cast of characters. Woo. because they are a cast of characters. All right, so who are these people involved in this case? Let me first just say, this is Haleigh, and this is Haleigh and her little brother, and that is Ronald Cummings' daddy. Okay, now I want to start out with Ronald Cummings had just got out of prison. Let me read what it says here. Ronald Cummings. They just confirmed he was released Wednesday. That's in October Wednesday. Ronald Cummings' mother said that he'd be staying at a hotel for a few weeks. Thanks, Mom. Why is in the hotel? She also said he's always thinking about Haleigh. Okay. Ronald Cummings was never a suspect in the disappearance of his daughter, which is interesting. And I'm going to discuss that because in doing all the shows with Nancy Grace, I don't know, but, Nancy just seemed to adore Ronald Cummings. She did. She had his back the whole time. She had nothing negative to say about him, just the greatest guy ever. She really didn't like Ronald's girlfriend, who was the one who was at home when Haleigh went missing. She had not nice things to say about her, but she just seemed to really go for this guy. And I kind of sat on her show and said, but Nancy, and I was amazed she invited me back. But anyway, but Nancy, have you thought about this? Pat. Yeah, okay, that was Nancy. Anyway, he supposedly was never a suspect. Why is this? Because he was working on February 9th of 2009, the night she vanished from the Satsuma home. The next year, he pleaded guilty to an unrelated drug trafficking charge and has been in prison ever since. I think he got 15 years. And while he was in prison, he wasn't the best boy ever, let me tell you. I'm surprised he even got out on time because he was pretty violent and not the greatest. His girlfriend, Misty, she actually ended up with, I think, almost a 25-year sentence, and which surprised me because I don't know why he got the lesser sentence and she got the bigger one because he was the controller. They overdid it on her, and I almost wondered they did that, just try to get her to confess to what happened to Haleigh. That's kind of my opinion on that. But anyway, he's out, and I think he's hooked up with OJ, looking for the ones who killed their loved ones. You can see I'm a little biased here, and I'll explain why in a bit. I do not have any love for him. Sorry, guys. So anyway, this is, let me show you where Satsuma is. Let's say Satsuma is in Florida. Hold on. What am I doing here? Hold on a second. Okay, picture of map. Okay, there we go. This is Satsuma. It's in this part of Florida. I don't know if you can see that really well. St. Augustine is up here. So it's down here, and you can see here. And the important thing about Satsuma is, if you notice, there's a whole heck of a lot of water around it. Haleigh has never been found. Some people think she was abducted into a child sex ring. No. They did rule it in 2010, in spite of the fact they had no evidence she's dead. They ruled it a homicide. They believe she's dead, and they believe she's probably in the water here. Because even her dad said, well, she's probably was thrown into the water and an alligator ate her. So I'm thinking he might know. That's where Satsuma is. So now I want to get to the characters in this whole saga. And also I'll try to go back and introduce you to who is involved, because one of the difficulties about this case is everybody's messed up. And I don't think I can get sued for saying that, because everybody is messed up, and that's a fact. Everybody is messed up. There's not one person I think connected to this case that isn't messed up. So I'm going to let you know a little bit about their history so that you can see. Oh, I forgot to check to see if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Anybody say you could hear me? I always like to check on that just before I keep going. What? Wait a minute. Michaela says, Pat, let me in so anyone can subscribe. Anyone can subscribe to the YouTube channel. All of the videos on my channel are open to the public. I do not have any private videos that are just for people who are on Patreon. No. All of my videos are open to the public because I want everyone to be able to understand profiling and crime scene analysis, especially people who are going into investigative work of some sort or psychology or whatever, or profiling. I want them to be able to access everything I do. So that's open to the public and free. And I'm going to have my profiling school portion of this channel there as well. And that will also be completely open to the public. The only what I have at Patreon is just the live part. This is the live part for anybody who's in the chat room. I keep the chat room to a pleasant place because when I have the chat room open to the public, everybody and every crazy human being rolls in and every bot, and it just becomes a big shit show, shall we say. And so it's so nasty, it's just not worth doing. And so it serves no point for an educational channel because I'm not trying to inflame a whole bunch of people just to, get views. I want some kind of sense of reason. And that's why I have this wonderful chat room with people who actually care. So when you join Patreon, that's it. You can come to all the live shows and be here in the chat room. But the shows are open. After I finish the live part, then I make it public for everyone. So that's that. So can you hear me? Just let me know, somebody, before I go on. Play Misty for me. Yeah, I'm surprised no more did more about that song while this whole thing was going on. Yes, I remember that song. But do tell me. I just want to check one more time to make sure you can see and hear me. I'm looking backwards here. Oh, okay, there we go. And can hear and see me. Okay, now we'll go on. All right, so now let's talk about the family. Wow, oh wow. All right, so all the family members, okay? I want to tell you the entire history of where Haleigh, who was just 5 years old, what she was born into and what she lived with and why everybody around her is somebody you got to wonder about. All right, so let me find this. Haleigh, did I say Haleigh before or Haleigh? Oops, sorry, they rhyme, If I said that, I'm sorry. Haleigh, her 3-year-old brother, named after her father, who went by Junior. So there was Haleigh and Junior. They hadn't lived in the rented mobile home on Green Lane very long. So this is where they were living at the time that Haleigh went missing. The blue rig was expansive and tucked from view from a more traveled roads. All right. So a random drive-by by an abductor was not likely, and that's absolutely true. All right. So now, since Haleigh was 2 and Junior was not even a year, the children spent most of their time with their father and his family. Why is that, you ask? That is because Ronald here and their mother, Crystal Sheffield, were no longer together. All right, so Sheffield, she went to live with Cummings and his family when she was just 14. Let me see if I can find you a picture of Crystal. So I'm going to put the 2 girls up right now. Let's see, where are my 2 girls? Oh, here they are. All right. I'm trying to remember which ones. I think this is Crystal over here. They're crying because Haleigh is missing now. So this is Misty. This is Crystal. All right. Crystal went to live with Cummings and his family when she was just 14 years old. By the way, Ronald likes them young. All right. She was supposed to stay just the weekend, but didn't go back and dropped out of school. At 17, she got pregnant with Haleigh. Oh, really? Okay. And 18 months after giving birth to her, Sheffield gave birth to Junior. All right. So she had 2 kids with Ronald. All right. Both children were born with some issues. Haleigh had Turner syndrome and needed to see a cardiologist and an endocrinologist monthly. By the time she was a little over 2, she had missed a dozen appointments. So, not the greatest parenting going on here. Cummings noted all of this in the court records when he fought Sheffield to get custody of the children. And there's a whole bunch of stuff goes back and forth on whether Ronald Cummings cheated her out of custody or not. But he did say, hey, she was using cocaine and she wasn't responsible to care for the children. Yeah, that was true. But then he wasn't that responsible either. Then Sheffield admitted to the court that she used heavy drugs, but she said that was at the insistence of Ronald Cummings, who was a drug dealer. Yeah, and I don't know if he'd like to drug up his ladies. I'm kind of thinking he had a thing with that. Sheffield and family members stated in court records that Cummings was a known drug dealer and a violent and impulsive man, which in prison he definitely showed himself to be that. And there's a whole bunch of other incidents in his life which pretty much support that. So anyway, the Florida Department of Children and Families opened a case on the children when Haleigh was a toddler and was found unresponsive face down in a water-filled ditch. I'm going to say this was not a great place Haleigh was born into. She had two irresponsible parents, and she wasn't being cared for well. So in the custody battle, a magistrate awarded Ronald Cummings custody, saying his $10 an hour job, which one day would provide benefits, was better than Sheffield being unemployed. And she could see the kids every other weekend. Okay, so anyway, that's how Ronald got hold of Haleigh and was he had her in a care. Now, just a little side note on Crystal Sheffield. In 2013, this was 4 years later, she was arrested for petty theft, disorderly intoxication, possession of drug paraphernalia. Because now Haleigh was gone because Haleigh got missing. But she at that point, I guess, well, let's see, a year after Haleigh went missing, Ronald went into prison, right? So she had custody of Ronald Jr., right? Jr. Then, I got to get these dates straight here. So then 3 years later, she gets caught with drugs and has issues with that. So now the question, what do they do about Ronald Jr.? So Ronald Cummings was brought from prison to the Baker County Courthouse for a custody hearing. I'm not sure how he gets a custody hearing when he's going to be in prison for another 10 years. I don't understand the system. Anyway, yeah. So during that custody hearing, Sheffield lost custody of Ronald Jr. And then I don't know who ended up with Ronald. It gets more and more confusing. And just on a side note, just because this is how insane all of this is, Crystal, who had nothing to do with her daughter going missing, so she is innocent of anything that occurred on that night that Haleigh went missing out of the mobile home. She did not have custody and she was nowhere near. So she truly lost her daughter that night through no fault of her own. Other than that, she already lost custody of her daughter, and that was through her own fault. Now, I just have to bring this up just because it's so bizarre. Just recently, let me find this. Okay, where is this? Hold on a second. Let me see if I can find this. This just kind of boggles the mind. So I'm going to get back to Haleigh in a minute, but I want to finish up with let's see if I can find it here. Oh, what did I do with it? Hold on a second. What? No, I've done it again. I always lose something when I do a show, and I'm always annoyed when I lose something. Hold on one second. I got to find this because it's going to bug me if I don't find it. Crystal, she went on and she had 2 kids, and I don't know if it's 2 more kids or she just had 2 kids. I say again, it gets very confusing, but let me see if I can find this. Just because I think this is something fascinating to add to this whole picture of things. Oh, here it is. I forgot to load it. Okay, so here we go. So as far as I think, this is Crystal, aged a wee bit, and this is her son. Okay, now this is another one of her sons. So this guy, she has this popped up because this guy got murdered just recently. He got murdered, and let's see, when was he murdered? 2 years ago, I think. So a Wildwood mom, that's Crystal, was calling for justice for her son, 20-year-old Germanic Luther Jr., who was found dead in the back of a burned SUV. So somebody put his body in the back of an SUV and set it on fire with gasoline. Horrifying murder of this young man. She says this. She couldn't believe it happened. And then she said, what hurts most is Luther's about to become a father. Now he won't be able to see the birth of the child. She said Luther did have his faults, but still had a heart of gold. Okay, well, that's his mugshot. Because apparently, in spite of the fact that he might be considered in her heart, a really nice guy, he was part of 3 men were arrested in a shootout that killed one person at a party. And Germanic Bernard Luther, he turned himself in shortly after the other ones, and he was charged with aggravated battery with a firearm. And he was in jail on a $250,000 bail. So I'm going to say, sorry, Mom, I know you loved your son, but apparently the problems in your family with drugs and crime didn't go away. And he was involved in them too. And he was really cute looking here. And it looks like he has a sweet side, but unfortunately he was involved in something bad that got him arrested, and then it got him killed. Now, here's one more interesting thing about that. Let me show you this. So this happened when Ronald was still in prison. And it says here, let's see if I can find this here. Probably lost that one too. Okay. They had a GoFundMe, okay? And in the GoFundMe, I think this might be it. Is this it here? Hold on a second. Oh, I'm sorry. That's not it. Oh, that's not it. I'd lost it again. Okay, so in the GoFundMe, it actually, Ronald Cummings gives $100 to Crystal because he feels badly that what he calls his nephew was killed, or his cousin. I'm kind of been confused on those relations in this family. And he said, I'm really sorry. If I weren't in jail, I could do more. But here I want to help, and really feel bad about him being killed. And it's and her name there is Crystal Cummings and not Crystal Sheffo. So I don't know. This family has so many issues, but it gets worse. Don't you worry, it gets worse. So let's go back to the rest of the family. So I just wanted to sort of set up Crystal. So you see, Haleigh was born to two people, one who's a drug dealer, one who was on drugs. Not that Ronald didn't do drugs, but he definitely got the women he was involved with, which were always young women, involved in drugs. So anyway, let's go back there. So now, so then they broke up. All right. So Cummings fathered. Let me go back to our characters here. Let me go back here for just a second. So Ronald Cummings fathered another son with special needs. I don't know what's going on, but everybody's got special needs, which is concerning, who did not live with him on Green Lane. When Haleigh went missing, her mother was living in Baker County and her father was working overnight shift. Okay. So anyway, he had another kid. Then this guy met Misty Croslin in 2008. Where did he meet her? At Haleigh's school bus stop. Croslin told Cummings, and that's Misty here, Misty Croslin, that she told him that he should try to get custody of a special needs son that she was babysitting. Why? Because the baby's mother used drugs and left the boy with irresponsible people, which is bizarre because so she's babysitting a kid of a drug using mom of this guy. And she says he's being left with people who aren't caring for him properly, which is exactly what happened when she was caring for Haleigh. Haleigh went missing under her watch and she was doing drugs and was also with this guy. Can you see? It's like a weird spider's web. So anyway, she said he should get custody. Well, anyway, he didn't. Croslin, as it turned out, then became Haleigh and Junior's babysitter. So he said, I need a babysitter. So he hired her or brought her into the home, whatever you want to call it. She and Cummings, 8 years her senior, then became a couple. Oh, yeah, 8 years her senior. In a lot of states, that wouldn't be legal, but apparently it was in Florida. But they had problems. Croslin, a girl with a sixth grade education, who under a bogus name bought a bus ticket and ran away to New Jersey 2 hours earlier, still wanted that freedom to do what she wanted. So anyway, she went on a binge. She went away for a weekend of drinking and drugs and sex, binging away from Ronald, which really pissed him off. So he was going to throw her out. But then apparently he took her back. So then we get to February 9th. All right. So you can sort of see what we got here. A mess. A big, huge, fat mess. All right. So now February 9th comes. All right. Investigators say, all right, wait a minute, hold on, let me stop here a second. They're still fighting. Cummings called Croslin repeatedly and even made other calls asking her brother to go to his house and see if she was there with the children. Now, please think about this. He's at work, but he's calling and calling and calling and calling the brother. And so there's problems going on. He had a fight with her. He had spoken with her at a certain point, and then she shut her phone off. And there's a whole lot of questions about those phone calls during that evening after the last person saw Haleigh. Credible witnesses, investigators say, placed Croslin and her children at the mobile home in the late afternoon. That's after she got off a school bus. And in the early evening of February 9th. Sykes was one of those witnesses. Okay, that's a grandmother. I don't know how good she is either. I don't know if she's credible, but Sykes claims she stopped by with the children's clothing from over the weekend when she took care of them. They were all on the porch eating hamburger helper, which was on the stove. And Sykes insisted the children get into warmer clothes. Croslin's brother stopped by later. He and his sister smoked a joint on the porch. Okay, let me just see if I can find a picture of the brother. Where's the brother? Brother. Let me see a second here. Okay, this is Misty here. Okay, this is brother Tommy. Okay, so brothers now they're just smoking some weed. All right. Investigators believe Croslin, a heavy smoker, was out of cigarettes, sleep deprived, and didn't want to be there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, she's taking care of somebody else's kids, right? And it's not that much fun, and she's a drug user. So it's a heavy responsibility for a 17-year-old. Yeah, it was. Cummings, a drug user, said this detective, is also not without fault. He said Cummings, this is Ronald now, pushed drugs at Croslin to keep her happy and around, and I dare say to control the living heck out of her. He had her at his mercy. So don't ever think that Ronald Cummings is a sweet, wonderful guy. I don't know why Nancy Grace is so into the guy. I really just don't understand it. I don't. But he controlled the women that were in his life and ruined them. So he had control over her. She essentially, he says, became his sex slave and babysitter. I agree with that. Trusting his children to a teenage drug user was the last thing Cummings should have done. Living someone with someone like her is unacceptable. No kidding. So anyway, Haleigh was last seen. Okay. I think that was supposed to be 8 p.m. They have this wrong. Anyway, what happened between then and 3:27 a.m. when Croslin picked up the phone to call 911 as Cummings arrived home from work? What happened then? All right. I got to get this off because now we get to the actual supposed crime. Well, it is a crime. We just don't know exactly what the crime was. All right. So here we go as far as the crime goes. All right. So they're at home. Okay. And Ronald was at work, as far as we know, for the majority of the time he's supposed to be there. There were cell pings. He was there. He arrived at work. He was at work. Exactly when he left is a question, and I'll bring that up a little later. All right. So now let's go to what happened when at that night at the home. All right. So the police get a phone call. All right. And I'm going to link below. Peter Hyatt did a analysis of the phone call, which is very good. So I'm going to put that below the 911 call. But I'm going to read you parts of the 911 call here, or maybe even all of it, so you can see what it was. All right. 911, what's your emergency? Misty says, I just woke up. By the way, remember the word just? I always say just often means that a lie is coming. I just woke up and our back door was wide open, and I can't find our daughter. First of all, I think that's really weird because that is not your daughter. You've only been with them a few months. You're babysitting. That's not your daughter. That's your boyfriend's daughter. That's someone else's daughter. You're a babysitter. I can't find our daughter. 911. You can't find what? Misty Croslin, our daughter. Okay, what's your address? And she's blah, blah, blah. Okay, what's the numerical? Misty goes, the numerical? What's that? Okay, I can understand. She's 17. 911, the number on Green Lane. Yes. Okay, so apparently she didn't really know it. Okay, I don't actually know the number of my house number is 5 numbers long. I never get mail here, so I can't remember it either. So I'll give her a break. Okay, when did you last see her? Well, like just, here's just again. You know, it was around 10 o'clock. She was sleeping. I was cleaning. Okay, how old's your daughter? She's 5. What was she last seeing? What was she last seen wearing, ma'am? She was in her pajamas. She was sleeping. Okay, you said your back door is wide open? Yes, it was brick. It was a brick on the floor. And she's talking about a cinder block, not a brick. When I was asleep, it was not like that. Okay, the back door. Listen to me. Your back door is wide open. What are you talking about? A brick. So when I sleep, the door wasn't like this. So here's the door of the house, and there's a ramp coming down here, and the door is open, and it's held by this cinder block thing up against the screen door. Okay, that's what's holding the screen door open. You can see the inside door is more closed, but this is holding the screen door open. What is a brick? It's like on the stairs. We have a walkway, and there's a brick lying there. Yes, it's still there. Tell them they better come on. We've got them coming. Tell them we've got them coming. They're coming. What's the color of your house? Blue. Okay, so she starts asking questions about how tall she is and how much she weighs, and Misty doesn't do so well with this. And I get it again. I'm not good with weight, so Misty doesn't really know what she weighs, so she's trying to guess. She's doing badly. So that's all stuff she doesn't know. So now we get to Ronald. Ronald gets pissed. Ronald comes, man, I need somebody to get here now. 911 says, okay, let me speak to him. And he says, I just got home from work. And there's that just word again. I just got home from work. And my 5-year-old daughter is gone. I need someone here now. The word just is very important. Just means like there was no time between when I arrived home and found my daughter was missing. Not like I got home from work and my daughter is missing, which could leave a 15, 20, 30-minute period of time unaccounted for. But I just means I had no time to get involved with anything. So that's an important thing to remember. Okay, I've got officers on the way. And then he says, if I find whoever has my daughter before you do, I'm killing them. I don't care. I'll spend the rest of my life in prison. You can put that on recording, which he already knows is on recording. He does know that. I don't care. And then he gets pissed off because I asked him what pajamas she's wearing, because he says, of course, I don't know that. I just got home. What do I know about her damn pajamas, right? So he says twice, he reiterates this thing. If I find whoever has my daughter before you all do, I'm killing him. I don't care. And I'll spend the rest of my life in prison. And you can put it on recording, which it already is. I don't care. He is emphasizing how he will kill whoever has his daughter. He wants them to know he's angry. He wants them to know he believes someone took his daughter. Well, that's interesting. Okay. So you might ask, how well did Misty and Ronald search? Not that well. Misty supposedly gets up at 3 o'clock, and she says she realizes the child is missing and the back door is open. And then she says she searched around the house and underneath the beds, which is a kind of amusing because let me show you the bedroom. A lot of people picked up on this, and I think it's kind of, can't blame them for picking up on this. Let's picture the bedroom. Oh yeah, here we go. So she searched underneath those beds. I'm not quite sure how Haleigh would get under those beds, but okay. And then she never says, I searched outside. Because if the door is open, even if it's a cinder block there, you would think you'd run out looking around, screaming, Haleigh, Haleigh, Haleigh. You would think Ronald, when he arrives home and she says, Haleigh's not in the house, you think Ronald would run right outside and say, screaming for Haleigh, because my gosh, the guy could be in the bushes with her or carrying her off down the street or putting her in a vehicle. I don't hear about anybody going outside and looking for her. Also, which is interesting is, Misty says she got up at 3 o'clock and Ronald gets home at 3:20. The phone call is made at 3:27. Why didn't she call 911 at 3:05? Why did she wait till Ronald get home? I mean, she's just going to leave him, another 20 or 25 minutes for somebody to take that child as far away as possible? Why didn't she call Ronald? If she wasn't going to call 911, at least call Ronald and say, hey, she's not here. So that's a really interesting question. So anyway, that's the situation. So then police start doing searches. They search every place. They have the dogs going out there, and they're looking in. By the way, it's an area which is very unfortunate for children who go missing, because this is what the area looks like. There's a lot of places to get rid of a body. Let me put it that way. A lot of places, and the theory is that she was one of those cinder blocks, like the one blocking the door, was tied to her, and she was then sunk into the water with a cinder block, perhaps off of the dock here. That's some of the dogs they had ran down to this dock. They got Misty out here now saying, "Hey, was she thrown into the water here?" So, because this is the first story Misty has, is she woke up and didn't know what happened. She's got another story coming up, and I'm going to get to that one in a minute. So right at the moment, what we have is this child's missing. There's no reason for anybody to steal this child, but there is a story about why she gets stolen. But for a stranger to come in off the street at that location, and also, by the way, she claims, got this one. So you got to look at this. Got to look at this bedroom. Let me find this picture. This was done on Nancy Grace's show. So Nancy Grace's people are standing in the bedroom. Misty claims that she is sleeping on the red bed over there. It's a king. That's more of a king or queen size bed over there. She's sleeping. Let me show you the whole bed. That bed. She's sleeping there with Junior, and Haleigh is sleeping over there on the little white small bed. And somebody comes into the house, mind you, turns on the light in the kitchen, opens that door, and you can see the light shining through from that area, comes into her room, picks up Haleigh right out of the room, carries her back outside the door, out of the house. And Misty is none the wiser. Now, you say, well, she was a druggie. So, I can't find whether they tested her for drugs that night, but she did get up a little while later. So she either had to be so drugged she didn't recognize anybody coming in the room. She heard nothing, or nobody ever came in that room, which is far more likely that nobody actually ever came in the room. But yet the back door is propped open with a cinder block. And let me show you that part of the back door. So here we have, this is the door. This is one of Nancy's people at the house. There's the door, and you can see the screen door. And then now she's pushing that door back. She's pushing back the screen door, and the screen door will not stay open without being propped with a cinder block. It will not stay open. By the way, this is before. This is trying to get out. Supposedly, Ronald said he always locked this door before he went to work with a deadbolt. I'm not sure why, but anyway, that was the claim. So this is deadbolted. And then somebody. So how is it somebody breaking into the house if that thing's deadbolted? Okay, so there's this story. It's like really not working already. But let's assume it wasn't deadbolted. Then somebody came in and opened up this door, and then they put the cinder block against it. Okay, so that's how it all worked. So now we have the cinder block against the door, and yeah, okay, I'm going to stop there just for a minute. I'm going to check your notes, and then I'm going to give you the second story Misty gave, and then what Ronald and Misty did after all of this happened, and this child went missing. I'm going to get into showing what they did, and then I'm going to get into my analysis of what I think really happened. Let me see what you've got to say here. Let's see. Michaela says, broken home mom's a junkie, dad's a violent offender. What chance does this little poor girl have? Not much. I don't even know what happened to poor Junior. That's really sad. Really, really sad. Let's see. Let's see what else is here. Hold on, I'm going through the whole thing. Let's see. Well, there we go again. Violent individual and a child predator, just who you want to bring home and meet mom. Well, I didn't get to show you all of the parents of Misty. Okay, so when you went to get Misty, you want to see Misty's parents? Okay, hold on a second. Let me find Misty's parents. Oh, come on now. Yeah, somebody just said something about my organizational skills. I don't think it was probably complimentary. Hey, Sometimes there's just so much stuff, so much information I get up here, and I'm always like, I think I have everything, and then I'm like, damn it, I don't have everything, and it's so annoying. Wait a minute, I want to show you the picture up. Okay, I did lose it. I know I did it again. Okay, hold on one sec. Let me find it. I might have moved it. Oh, here they are. I don't know why. Where is it? Oh, it didn't show up. Okay. Sometimes things just don't click in proper. I'm going to blame them. I'm going to blame the StreamYard for this, not myself. All right, here we go. Those are her parents. That's Misty's parents. It says on the bottom, these are Misty's parents, and they were arrested for crack cocaine. Need I explain why Misty is a big fat wreck? Okay, so you have generations of very messed up people. I'm sorry, guys, but the drug use is unbelievable. Because of the drug use, you have people dropping out of school. You have people getting pregnant young. You've got people without very good judgment, just desperately seeking affection, desperately seeking drugs. And Ronald was good at giving affection and drugs until he beat you or something, But so Ronald is not Mr. Right guy, you know what I mean? Just because he showed some cute pictures with him and his daughter going, doesn't mean he was a good father. Just because he's fought for custody doesn't mean that he wanted really, truly to take care of those kids, because he left them with a 17-year-old babysitter who was messed up, and Haleigh ended up coming to harm. All right, so yeah, not such a great guy. Now let me tell you the story. So what happened was nobody quite believed. The police didn't quite believe this story about the child being taken out of the house when Misty's sleeping right next to her, right? All right. So now the story is this. Let me see if I can find her lawyer. Okay. Where'd that one go? Okay. So the next story is, this gets really kooky. All right. Now, all right. So we got Misty Croslin. She's been having a sex binge with a drug dealer named White Boy Greg. Several days before Haleigh went missing. Okay, now this is the next claim. Let me show you Joe Overstreet. So Joe Overstreet is cousin of Misty's and of Tommy. Okay, Joe, where are you? If I lost Joe, did I lose that sucker too? No, here he is. All right, there's Joe Overstreet. So Misty's brother Tommy. Okay, if you remember, okay, this is Tommy. Okay, he came over that night. Supposedly Ronald called him and said, what's going on? And he supposedly went over there. So they are somehow together during the night, and Ronald is aware of this and talking to him. All right. So he goes over, and this is the next story. So Joe Overstreet was staying with another brother, Timmy Croslin. So they got another one in there. And anyway, he came to the house. He came to Ronald's house looking for a shotgun. I meant to put a shotgun here. That's not a shotgun, but I wanted a gun picture. Shotgun Cummings was supposed to have and was lending him. Okay, so Ronald's like, hey, dude, come on over. I'm going to lend you a shotgun. I'm not going to be home, but just ask Misty for the shotgun. Okay. When Overstreet could not find the gun, he got furious and took Haleigh. You know how that is. You don't get the gun you want, you steal a child. Just what a guy like this wants. This is the stupidest story ever. And while Misty and the other child, Junior, cowered under the covers in another bed. So now instead of Haleigh being asleep in that bed with Junior, she's now cowering under the covers with Junior. In one version of the story, Tommy said he accompanied Overstreet to the river, where Overstreet threw the child into the river, tied with an orange rope, and weighted down with a block. That's a cinder block. Okay, so now you have Misty's brother, Tommy, saying he went with Joe to throw Haleigh in the river. That's where the police were all down there at the dock there, basically, and throw her in the river with a cord tied to a cinder block, which theoretically came from the house, right? Another story was that Tommy's got a lot of stories. Haleigh had been thrown into a pond near the house. So accusations were tossed all around. So anyway, the police drained the pond. They didn't find that, but the river had lots of alligators, which is what Ronald Cummings pointed out. All right, now So the story now is Joe did it, right? Which Ronald was kind of in on that. He's like, yeah, right, I think Joe did it. But interesting, if Ronald thought Joe really did that to his daughter, remember how he said he's going to kill whoever did it? He didn't go after Joe. He didn't go after Joe at all. You know what he did? This is what he did. He put a dead rat in the mailbox of Tommy Croslin. What does that mean? Somebody want to tell me what the dead rat to Tommy Croslin actually means? What would you think? I'm checking you out here now. Michaela says, is this oh, wait a minute. It's a stand-up comedy routine. These people turn things into it. So horrifying as this story is, it almost is comedic as how dreadful it is. Let me tell you. That's because they will throw you in the cinder block. Yeah, there you go. Mary's got it. You're a dead rat. Now, you're a dead rat. Now, why would Ronald be threatening Misty's brother, who, as far as I know, was helping, right? He was helping Misty. Why would he be saying you're a dead rat, dude? You're a dead rat. What would make him say that? You better watch out or you'll be a dead rat. Well, this is where, to me, I start believing that Ronald Cummings is not as innocent as all that, as Nancy Grace believes, as supposedly the police don't have him as a suspect. I don't buy it, because he is threatening. He is threatening, not Joe Overstreet, who he isn't trying to kill, which he should be, because isn't that the whole point? You're supposed to be killing off the guy who did something to your child, but he's not trying to kill that guy off. He's threatening Tommy, who he called to come over that night to help with Misty. Why would you asked him for his help and now you're threatening him? Why? Because what happened at that house that you need to cover up? Because that's the only thing I can come up with, is that you know something that happened at the house that you feel will get you in trouble. Because I don't think he's not going to protect little 17-year-old Misty. Come on now. He'll throw her to the dogs. He could care less. He's not that madly in love with him. I believe he does exhibit all those psychopathic tendencies. So I think he uses women. I don't think and abuses them, but I don't think he loves them. So he's using her as a babysitter and a sex slave. I would say if she killed his kid, then he'd have something to say about that. Now, he did make an interesting comment that basically he even said it on the phone that his bitch girlfriend lost the kid. Bitch girlfriend lost my kid. He's blaming her on the phone for what happened. But then why doesn't he go further? Why is he protecting her then? So you say, well, I don't know that he's protecting her. Oh, yes. So what happens is a few months later, this happens. One second. Okay, wait a minute. Something's happening here. Let me find it. Here we go. A few months later, there we have it. Yes, he proposes to the girlfriend, the bitch who lost his kid. The bitch who didn't take care of his daughter well enough so she's now missing and probably dead. He proposes to her. You got it? Like, what? You're going to marry her? Oh, yeah, and he did. He married her in a backyard ceremony, which was pretty unclassy. But he claimed that they were going to have, when Misty came home, they were going to have the big wedding. Now, mind you, it is claimed that the reason they got married is because Misty said that Haleigh wanted us to get married. She would be happy today. No, the kid's dead, first of all, because of you, in one way or the other. And you've only been together a few months. I just don't know that you've been such an exemplary mother compared to Crystal that she would give up. Remember, she was with Crystal for a long time. And even if Crystal wasn't the best mother, it's still her biological mother who she's lived with. And this is a babysitter who is having screaming fights and running off for the weekend. She's not like the best replacement mother ever. And so that little 5-year-old Haleigh just couldn't wait for them to get married. Give me a break. but they get married. And just say, why? And one thing Ronald said was, some people think they got married so that she couldn't testify against him as a spouse, but that actually doesn't play out in Florida that way. But that doesn't mean they're not so smart that they may have been so dumb they didn't know that. So don't say because it's not true they didn't think so. Okay, the IQ of this entire bunch probably doesn't go over 100 combined. So he asked her to marry him, and one of the things he says is, "You keep your friends close, but you keep your enemies closer." Well, who are his enemies? Is that one of his enemies? Well, why would she be an enemy? What is he going to do? Is he trying to stay close to her so that he can wheedle the information out what really happened? Is that the issue? Okay, I'm going to read you something I wrote about that a while back. Let's see. Who are his enemies? Hold on a second. I got to find it. All right. Who are his enemies? Hold on a second. Oh, no, you don't do this to me. Hold on a second. One more second here. No, that is not what I did. Okay, found it. Okay, by the way, and so this is an aside, but this is also true. He spent money. People were giving him money to find Haleigh, who he wasn't really working that hard at finding, mind you, because he's too busy doing other stuff. So he like buying a ring. He gave his grandmother's ring to her. Anyway, he also spent $400 getting this tattoo of Haleigh. Oh my God. I don't know who that tattoo artist is, but if Ronald wants to kill somebody, he might want to select the tattoo artist, because that looks like the Bride of Chucky to me. I mean, this is supposed to be your 5-year-old daughter. That's what that's the, oh my God, that's so bad. That is not honoring your daughter at all. It's like, oh, it's a horrifying thing. It's like, really? I mean, this whole bunch is just, they're a big fat mess is all you can say about them. But just craziness. All right. So let me talk about his enemies. All right. Who are his enemies? Keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. Who are they? Is it Misty? Now, mind you, then, so that's his ex-girlfriend, because he got married to her, but then he got unmarried quite soon after he got unmarried. So go figure that again. Is it his ex-girlfriend, his ex-wife, Haleigh's former stepmother? Which one is his enemy? He says enemy is not enemy. Okay, so is he speaking of Tommy Croslin, who he put the dead rat in the mailbox? Actually, it was a beheaded rat, even worse than a dead rat. Is he speaking of Tommy and Misty's cousin Joe Overstreet, who supposedly ended up with a gun belonging to Ronald, or he didn't, which we don't know yet which one that is. So who is he? Who's trying to damage him? Who is he trying to prevent from damaging him? And I have only one answer to this. This is what I wrote. They know something extremely detrimental to Ronald, which could harm him worse than the loss of his child. The only thing I can think of is that it's something to do with the loss of his child. Now, he's doing damage control. He's threatening and he's doing damage control. So he's bribing her with a ring and a wedding and keeping her close and controlling her with drugs. He's threatening Tommy with a rat. So what is going on here? Now, they didn't find blood in the trailer, because one of the questions would be, did his own gun go off and end up killing Haleigh? But there's no blood in the trailer that they found. But it doesn't mean it couldn't happen. I'll explain how it could have happened. Or did she get a hold of drugs and die in the house, which is what the police, I do believe, think happened, and they were Ronald's drugs. So who's going to be responsible? It's going to be Ronald. It could be that. But there could have been sexual abuse of Haleigh, that for whatever reasons, but I don't know that there's any proof of that. All right. Ronald made a lot of phone calls home that night. Yet there is no proof that he didn't leave work at some point. Now, they say there are 2 pings that showed he was at work, but there wasn't absolute proof that I know of that he couldn't have left work and come back to work. using the work as his alibi. People saw him at work, but if he wasn't in everybody's presence at the whole time, I've never gotten clear that there was no way he could have left work, because maybe those phone calls, he talked to Tommy, and then he decided to go home, and something happened when he was at home, a fight, a gun, something, drugs, whatever, I don't know. Something happened, and Ronald is actually there. Or that's not true, but I don't have any proof that he couldn't have left work. They say he had an alibi, but I just don't see the actual dots being connected. However, let's assume he was still at work. So I don't know if what really was going on. Did Misty just conveniently wake up at 3 o'clock? Or was she already awake for some reason just before Ronald got home? And then we have some interesting information. Did Ronald come home right at 3:27, just arrived home like at 3:25? That's not absolutely proven. Now, let me show you where that's not proven, which also puts Ronald back into the picture. Ronald and Misty called 911 at 3:27 a.m. At first, she stated Ronald got home at 3, which leaves a 27-minute wait before calling them. And they're not really saying they're looking for Haleigh, so why aren't they calling the police immediately? Misty stated she tried calling Ronald several times before he got home, and there was no answer. They have never released any phone records to confirm that. William Cobra Stubbs, a private investigator and bounty hunter who has been trying to locate Haleigh, stated that Ronald was captured on surveillance video at a convenience store at 2:30 a.m., 5 minutes from the trailer. I don't know. It's never been released. We don't know when exactly his shift ended. Did it end prior to 3 o'clock that night? If Ronald's shift did end early and he was at the convenience store at 2:30, there was another 25 minutes of time unaccounted for, since he allegedly did not get home until after 3 a.m. All right. Did he get home at 2:35? And then something happened in that house. We don't know. And then Misty woke up at 3 o'clock and found the kid gone. But by then, the kid was dead, not gone, but dead. And then they had to do something in that time period before they called 911. I don't know. But I don't trust that Ronald didn't know what happened and just arrived home at 3:27 and the kid was gone. And he marries the woman the bitch who lost his kid. He doesn't go after anybody. He does all a bunch of shenanigans. And to this day, she's never been found. Now, one more thing I want to point out is, this is my biggest red flag of this whole shit show, essentially, that I haven't seen anybody point out. So I'm going to do it. And it is about the cinder block on the back door. Here is my problem with that. And then I'm going to go to your thoughts on this as soon as I point out the cinder block issue. All right, so let's go back to the cinder block. There it is up against the back door. You can see it. I don't know if you can see it there, if that's it. I guess that is a cinder block. Yeah. Okay, so the screen door is open and the cinder block is holding it open. Okay, now, here's the idea with the cinder block. Okay, so supposedly somebody comes in and takes Haleigh and is kidnapping her. She's a very small child. She's not big for her age at 5. She's quite small, actually, because of her genetic issues. So she's a small child. You can pick up that sleeping small child, put her on her shoulder. You go to the back door. You've already opened the door, right? You open the door, you push the screen door, and you walk out of the house. You don't need to prop a screen door open with a cinder block to carry a child out of the house. That's ridiculous. Now, it's another weird thing. Suppose a child died in the house, which the theory is she did. Why would you need to prop the door open if she died in the house? To carry her out. You would seem they could do the same thing. You carry the dead child out of the house. You don't need to prop a door open. So the theory is the door was simply propped open to make it look like somebody had broken into the house. But I'm going to say, if Ronald's in on propping the door open, I just don't believe he would think that's a good way to prove somebody came into the house. You could just damage the door. Make it look like a breaking and entering. You could smash a window. You could You could just leave the big door open and just have the screen door there, and have it just open. And you could just say, Misty could just say, hey, I forgot to lock it. I went to bed, I forgot to lock it. Somebody must have come in. That's much more reasonable. But why the heck would anybody taking a child out of the house prop it open with a cinder block, even to make it look like somebody came into the house? That is the most bizarre way anybody would ever come into a house. I have a problem with that. Now think about this. The only reason I can come up with why the door would be propped open is because you're carrying something out the door that needs 2 people. Now, one of the things that was said by Nancy's people that were there, they were there at the door. That door there. She's showing in the video that door just keeps shutting on its own. It doesn't close all the way, but that heavy door, when you open it up, it just kind of goes back toward, to almost shut again. And it doesn't stay open. And the screen door doesn't stay open either. But once you prop the screen door, you still need somebody kind of to hold the heavy door open. So if you had 3 people, you'd have Misty hold that door. She would stand against that door, holding it open, and the cinder block would hold the screen door open. And then the 2 men, whoever they were, I would say some more likely Ronald and Tommy, would carry out whatever they're carrying out that they need the door propped open for. Now, the question there is, they can't be just carrying out a kid. They have to be carrying out something larger that they need the door open for. And here is a theory I have, because I cannot come up with good reason for that door. Maybe one of you can. I can't come up with it. So here is one of my theories on that. This bedroom bugs me. What does it bug me? Take a look at the bed. Now, the big bed is where supposedly, generally speaking, Ronald and Misty slept together. They slept in their bed. Okay, here's a picture of the whole room. That's the bed. They're sleeping in the big bed. And over there is the little bed. And if you see the people standing here, you can see just how little it is. Now, supposedly, the 2-year-old and the 5-year-old were sleeping both on that bed. Okay. Now, I've seen that done, because sometimes, especially in certain countries that are very poor, that's all they have. And they shovel the kids onto that. And 2 or 3 kids will sleep on that bed in certain countries. That is fairly unusual in America. Although, yes, could 2 kids fit on that bed? Yes, they could. But then I wonder to myself, all right, so all 4 of you are sleeping in the same room. Okay. Why is that? Maybe it's because I want to keep the children nearby to protect them, which I did such a fine job of. Keep an eye on them. Now, some people will really go, oh my God, the children should be sleeping in there with the parents, because that looks sexual to people, sexual abuse and all that stuff. And how do you have sex with the kids in the room? Probably because they're asleep and they don't pay any attention. And so people have sex in front of little teeny children. I myself, my ex and I, we had a family bed, and my daughter and my son slept until they were 4 and 2 when they finally shoveled them off. So I can't say, hey guys, you can't all sleep in that bed together. I'm not saying that. However, that little bed looks small for 2 kids. And I think of a couple things. One is I look at this house, and I didn't realize this in the house, but you can see in the master bedroom that's on the left side, you see the big bed, and then you see Haleigh. That's where supposedly Haleigh was sleeping. But if you look to the other side of the living room, there's a 3rd bedroom, a 2nd and 3rd bedroom. I don't know what those are doing over there. I mean, nobody's sleeping over there. Again, maybe because they wanted to keep the kids close. Maybe because they didn't have any beds. So they just, they used a couple mattresses and threw them on the floor. But I'm like, okay, maybe that's true. I'm not saying it isn't. But then I look back at there's a couple things. This is just one thought I had. If you look at this particular picture, you can see a blocked out whiter area than the rest of the rug. It almost looks like to me, if you turn that bed around, the big bed, and put it, where you see where the green and white pillow are? If you turn that bed and put the green and white pillow on the other side where the window area is, it looks like it would fit in that spot. It looks like at one time it was there, and then it was moved to that corner. Now, I could be wrong. I'm not seeing that picture correctly. Or it could be that they did have that bed in a different position, and then maybe then they decided it would be better to move that over to the corner so they could watch a TV set better, which I think is that little brown. There's a little area in that corner on the very bottom corner. There's supposedly a TV set there. And so they changed the bed so they could see a TV. Maybe, people move things around. So maybe it just was moved around at some point. But I also have to point out, it's possible that night they could have moved that bed that night for some reason. There could have been, if you move that bed the other direction, you could have had another small bed against that wall, the same size as that little bed, because it's just a mattress. That could be where the little boy slept and Haleigh slept over there. So there were actually two beds, or vice versa. There were actually two beds in the room. It's possible one of those little mattresses, one of the beds for the children, was moved from that room, carried out that door, which is why you would have to have people hold the door open and why you put a cinder block there to carry out a mattress, because something happened on that mattress and you don't want that mattress found. If that mattress were against the wall where the big bed is, and once you move that mattress, you just might push that big mattress over that spot to cover it up. Now, that's just a thought. Also, a small mattress could be put in the living room. It could be put in one of those other rooms. There could be any place. But I wonder, because of that cinder block, whether somebody carried out a small mattress that had something on it, either blood on it or vomit on it or something. That's where the child was hurt or died, and that mattress had to be removed from the house. I cannot come up with another reason for that cinder block to be there, except that the door had to be held open so that people could move something through it. That's a theory I have. But I don't believe for a minute that anybody propped the door open to come in and steal a kid. That makes no sense. So and it's a very poor method to show somebody broke into the house. It just looks dumb. So I just think it's had to be some other purpose for it. But what I can tell you from all of this is that from the behaviors of Ronald Cummings, I don't for a minute believe that he didn't know what happened in that house and he didn't have some connection to it. So either he did leave work and come home and did leave work, something happened and he came back to work for an alibi, or he left work early enough to arrive home at 2:35 and not at 3 or at 3:20. 25 or 27, as Misty tries to say. I think there may have been an extra hour. Maybe he was pissed. Maybe he had suspicions she was up to something. He was trying to get Tommy to go over there, check on her. Maybe he left work early enough to get home earlier and check on her and woke her up, and there was a fight, there was anger, something happened. Or maybe Haleigh had already taken some drugs he had left around. Somehow I got to put Ronald in the middle of that. And then he had to cover it up. And then he's like, oh, she lost my kid. Oh, I'm going to kill everybody who did something to my kid. I'm Mr. Innocent. I don't believe for a minute that he was totally 100% uninvolved, as Nancy Grace did believe. I just, not for a minute. The choices he made after the fact are not the choices of a man who believes that his 17-year-old girlfriend was 100% responsible for what happened, or that her brother came in and killed his kid, and he's not going to do anything about it. I do believe in the dead rat saying, shut the hell up. You came over, you know what happened. We had to do what we had to do. Shut the hell up. I love my kid, but hey, I'm not going to jail over it. That's my belief. And now that he's out, I'll be curious to see whatever happens. So let me go to your comments. Hold on a second, I gotta get something to drink. All right. Oh, yes, they did. Okay, that's a good comment. Did they have polygraphs? Yes. I never did find out whether Ronald failed his, but we do know that Misty pretty much failed hers miserably. Like she knew what happened. Why does he have the cinder block? I don't know. I have cinder blocks around my old house. I had lots of cinder blocks. I built shelves with them, made walls in the backyard. It's common. Let's see. I'm not going to put that one on the screen. Oh, Lisa N., thank you. This is what we're here for. Logical possibilities that tie in with the evidence. Yeah. And I found it weird that I never saw anywhere discussed the cinder block against the holding the door open issue. It was only ever discussed as a fake break-in. But no one ever discussed another good reason for that. And I find that fascinating. I don't even know that. I'm looking back. I don't remember if I thought about that. But as I reviewed the case, that's the thing that struck me. It was like, if there's something happened to that kid, somebody probably, one of the theories is Misty washed the clothing because something happened. So she was washing Haleigh's clothing. And I'm not saying those two kids can't fit on that bed together. They can. And sometimes you just, you don't have much money to shove them on the bed. I'm not saying that can't happen. But then I wonder, did they just have two mattresses? And one was on one mattress and one was on the other. And we're only seeing the one that's left. And the claim is they slept on that together. Or one slept there and one slept with us. I don't know if the police ever looked into that issue of why the cinder block really was holding the door open. Let's see. Hold on. Let me go back here a little bit. Hold on a second. Heading backwards. Let's see what. Oh, Ms. Leah says, hold on a second. I got to get something to drink. Ronald used to go on a morning shock jock radio show every week. And they even went with him to film getting the tattoo. Didn't they stop? Why didn't they stop him? I'm sorry, but that is the most hideous tattoo I've ever seen. Poor Haleigh. I do not think Haleigh looks like that. I just, good Lord. I mean, I hope if I get kicked off and somebody wants to memorialize me, I'm not like, this is my mom. Thanks, kids. Thanks, kids. Yeah, you notice the floor vent in the middle of the room. I did, I looked at that myself. Let me show you people what you're talking about here. There's actually two floor vents. Let me find the other one. There's one there, and there's another one. It's this is a trailer. Gosh knows why there is one in the middle of the room. Don't know. But you see that? You can really see in this picture. Look up in that left picture. Do you see that complete white out area? I'm sorry, but that looks like that bed might have been turned around that direction. And I wonder, all they had to do is say, if there's a mattress on the other side of that bed, just pick up that mattress, carry it out the door, and then shovel the bed over there so nobody realized there was a second mattress. I don't know. You're talking about people who are, in the midst of freaking out over whatever happened. Because I don't think it's a premeditated homicide. And I don't think Joe came in and kidnapped the kid. Something happened in that home with drug-addled, angry, hot, violent people, and the kids, and there's also drugs everywhere, because he's a drug dealer. It's hard to say whether she ingested drugs and died, or whether she was hit, or whether she was shot. Maybe Joe did come over with a gun, come over to get the gun, and I don't know. I can't do a video of what happened when I wasn't there, but I can tell you what happened isn't what Misty said happened. And I also can say that all of Ronald's behaviors, I don't buy. And I don't buy the cinder block was there because somebody came in to take the kid. And I don't believe the cinder block was there to fake somebody came in to get the kid. I think it was there because I needed it to be there when they moved something out. And then they used that. And, then they went to make the phone call and they're like, oh, we'll just say somebody came in that way. They didn't think it through because they're not bright people, So let's see. Oh, yes, this is true. Ms. Leah says to Sarah, just do a search for Ronald Cummings or Misty's name and a whole bunch of clips from TV shows, and the Sting video will come up. Tons of, and they're really quite amazing and almost humorous. They're so, you just watch these things, you just go, good Lord, what a mess. What a whole bunch of people with a whole bunch of problems. And it's sad because when kids are born into this, they don't have much of a chance. And these, I have to say, Misty was born into it too. Ronald appears to be born into it too. So it's like, and Crystal born into it too. So everybody came into that messed up families, and then they made messed up families, and then those kids were part of messed up families. And, sometimes people, social workers, oh my God, sometimes it's very hard for them to fight all of this. You know what I mean? It's like they're trying to figure out which parent should we give them to? This screwed up parent or this screwed up parent? Oh no, let's give it to the screwed up grandparent or this screwed up grandparent. It's not very easy decision to try to make. BLW says, "Are you going to come back and listen, see what you missed tomorrow?" Yeah, sometimes you can't make these shows or stay for all of them. Didn't Misty go smoke a joint with her brother? Yes. And did she prop it open while she left the kids to smoke? I don't think she needed to do all of that. You know what I mean? I don't think every time she went out of the house, she propped open doors with cinder blocks. It wasn't like the whole door closed so strong she couldn't hear her. And they were supposedly sleeping anyway. I don't think she would have cared. I mean, we're talking about Misty. We're not talking about, no. I don't think she would have gone to all that personally. Now, is it possible? I'm going to give you this, though. This is one of the things when you're investigating a crime. You look at everything and you say, what about this as something we have to really consider? For me, it would be, I want to consider that this was propped open for the purpose of being able to move something out. Then my investigation, if I were investigating this, or if I were giving a profile, I would tell the investigators, all right, this is what I see as a very strong possibility. You need to see if there was another mattress in that house or something that was removed through those doors, because maybe there was something else. And that would be something to look for. Now, mind you, it could be you're looking. You're like later on, you're like, maybe the girl was just smoking some weed and opened the door. She's so stupid, she stuck a cinder block up there so she could just sit outside for 2 hours and smoke. So you could be right. My theory could be wrong. So this is the problem. These things aren't so absolute. So it actually helps to have a team where somebody can bring up a devil's advocate thing saying, hey, I tend not to think that's true, but hey, these people are whack jobs. Sometimes people do strange stuff. I've done strange stuff, and people would never understand why something happened that happened. And they'd go, well, I don't understand why Pat Brown would have done that. And it's because for whatever reason, something freaky happened and I did something out of quote error character, but no, just under the circumstances. And it was just unusual so that people couldn't explain it, but it isn't necessarily that it didn't happen. So I think actually you made a very good point. I'm going to say that was entirely possible. That's a good question, Molly. Does Ronald have a history of violence toward his daughter? He did tell his Misty, I think, to whip the kid when she was causing it. She would call up at his work and go, the kid's driving me nuts, and he'd go, just whip the kid. A teenage fit throwing babysitter seems more likely to erupt and injure, even kill a child. Possibly. I just don't think Ronald would protect her. You see, there's where I have problems. When people say, who would protect whom? You will have parents who will protect, let's say their son kills their daughter. They will protect that son because their daughter's gone, or let's say they've got it's a Cain and Abel thing. So let's say you have two sons. One of your sons kills the other son. And now you've lost one, but now you still you thought you loved anyway. You loved this other one for so many years, and you don't know why he went and did this horrible thing, but he's the only one you've got left. So you'll protect him. And so when you have a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife situation, same thing. It's like, will that person protect the other person? They will if they're very strongly attached. If they can't stand losing them, if they really want to protect them from something they think was an accident, they will protect them for those reasons. On the other hand, if they're not that attached and you did something to something I cared about, I'll throw your damn butt under the bus as quickly as I can. And the bitch did it. I came home, she killed my kid. I know, whatever. The fact that Ronald went to such lengths to, right after his daughter goes missing, he marries the woman and he claims that's her fault. And he marries her anyway. And then he puts the rat in the box. I mean, I'm going to say he is protecting himself, not somebody else. That would be my theory on that. Ms. Leah says, if anyone's interested in the case further, there are multiple videos online of the dad and Misty online acting like fools, including undercover video of Misty's drug deal. The kid's missing, and they're still dealing drugs, and they're still doing things that both of them got put in prison for. Why Misty got such a long sentence? She's not out yet. I mean, she was younger and more vulnerable than Ronald, and she got the longer sentence. And I still don't understand that, except they were just trying to get her to talk. So I wonder. Let's see what else we have to say. That's an interesting point. Selling drugs on the way home from work or buying drugs. That's another possibility. That's a thought, Anne. That is a thought. They gotta sell sometime, Michaela says, blindfold me and give me a dartboard and I'll pick the suspect. Maybe you just need four darts. Get them all. Get them all. I'm giving up doing a crime scene analysis exam for this. Well, and this is important to understand how difficult some of these things are. I don't know what went wrong with the police investigation that they never figured this out, or did they? But they couldn't prove it. They could have sucked at their investigation. They could have tried everything they could come up with. They just couldn't get. You'd think this bunch of idiots, people say, well, they're not that smart. They wouldn't get away with it because they're not that smart. But it's amazing what you can get away with if you just get lucky. And as Ronald pointed out, she probably got eaten by alligators. So probably that's what happened. If she was thrown in a place with a cinder block where alligators are, I'm going to say they had dinner. And by the time they ever could find anything, they would find a cinder block, and they wouldn't have a body attached to it. So I don't know. They did have dogs go, and supposedly some cadaver dogs hit on a trash bin, and they didn't find anything in there, though. So that's interesting. I don't exactly know. I can't remember the exact time frame of when the dogs went out and hit on that. I don't know. I don't know where everybody else lived and what was around them that they could get rid of things efficiently. I don't know. So that's that's what's always frustrating, because I'm not inside the investigation. If I could go down to Satsuma and look through the entire files and review the entire case and see all the interviews and see every bit of everything that was done, maybe I could figure out something and know exactly what went down. Or maybe I just say, well, detectives did a great job, and it's one of those cases. They just can't prove it, in spite of the fact that you'd think they could get somebody to talk. I think they were trying to get somebody to roll, but nobody rolled, which is fascinating. And nobody rolled. So let's see. What's her? Well, I can't honestly remember, DC. There's so much on this case. I just couldn't get through the 100 hours worth of work I'd have to do to be sure I could know every detail of it. She was, obviously broken up about it. But you see that, when she lost her son, Ronald Cummings gave her $100. So I don't know. Maybe she believes that Joe Overstreet did it. Maybe she's mad. I'm sure she's mad at Misty, but then she's a druggie too. So, maybe she understands, hey, Misty was probably doing drugs and didn't know what was going on. Don't know. It's very sad. Let's see. Anything else here? Why? What's that say here? That's terrible. Mirth Mother said, does anybody have cocaine? Yeah. When people say drugs are a victimless crime, they're so full of crap. Drugs are one of the crimes that has the highest victim rate of anything I know. I know too many people have died of drug overdoses. I know too many people who have destroyed their family over drugs. There's so many criminal just straight up crimes where people are robbed and burgled for drugs and for money, and people are killed over it, and the cartels are involved in it, and they're destroying the countries. I mean, Mexico and Colombia and all these other countries have been, people have, thousands and thousands of people have been killed over drugs. Don't tell me drugs is a victimless crime. It is not. It is not. And I will never, ever back down on that. And that's going to be true for weed too. Weed is not a victimless crime either, because people think it's just so mild and all this kind of stuff. No, it's already, I just said during the hangout this week that four Chinese nationals were gunned down, executed at a marijuana grow farm in Oklahoma by another Chinese national. So somehow this grow farm, I don't know, that somebody brought in Chinese nationals to work there and took their passports from them so they can get them cheap. I don't know what was going on there. I don't know if it was legal or illegal, but even when you have legal drugs, you have illegal people moving into the market, because you get people so used to the drugs. If you can undercut the cost, the drug market will continue just like it's always continued. So don't believe that just because something's legalized, that it's all going to be hunky-dory. It's not. Sarah says, oh, that's frightening. I've been walking around every day constantly saying, hey, Pat Brown says, ooh, you might want to stop that. Somebody else is going to say, I heard what she said. I didn't like it. Oh my God. Question, the beheaded rat, does that speak to sadism? Not really. I mean, it depends how the rat died. I mean, he's got a dead, I mean, let's face it, people put it. I mean, you have to understand, I happen to be a person who loves rats. I've had pet rats. I love rats. And I even like wild rats. I talk to them when I see them go by. I go, you're so cute. And people look at me going, the woman is insane. Get back on your meds, lady. But I think they're cute. I know that in large quantities, they're not a good thing for homes and the environment. Not that I'm saying that, but they're very, very actually nice creatures. So a lot of people do kill them regularly with traps. And I would say that if he killed a rat and put it in the box, he's just making his point. And if a rat was killed in a trap and he decided to just take a cleaver and chop its head off to make the point better, I don't know, that's sadism. The rat was dead, I don't know that I've seen Ronald Cummings particularly be sadistic in any way. Not everybody's sadistic. They can be controlling, manipulative. They can be lying. They can be whatever. They could be very self-centered, grandiose, narcissistic, impulsive, all the things that psychopathy, gosh, I got to say that word right, psychopathy would entail. But it's not always sadistic. Just some like to get their power and control through sadism. So I didn't see it necessarily in Ronald. Rats ate my Christmas. Oh, rats ate my Christmas decorations in my detached garage. Not a fan. I'm sorry. Or the little mice. They do. The mice are cute too, but I do know that they eat up a bunch of good stuff too. I mean, they just make houses out of them. They borrow your stuff and they make these cute little houses that they live in. Okay, sorry. I'm just a rat fan and a mouse fan. Wait a minute. Michaela says, people who die from Black Death may disagree, Pat. Okay. Oh, Lord. Oh, what? Where there is one, there are 2,345 of them. Perhaps. But I'm just saying, I just know that in general, they're a very nice creature as far as they're very friendly. If you have one as a pet, they're very nice animals. They're smart. They'll feed out of your hand. They're really very cute. It's just unfortunate when they come and live with you, they don't tend to be house guests that you want. That's the unfortunate part. But as animals go, they're actually very nice. It's just, yeah, people don't seem to like them in their house. One more question. Do you think he married her to shut her up because they were his drugs? That is one of the major theories, that he was a drug dealer and she ended up being a drug dealer too. They nailed her for drug dealing. So, but yeah, I mean, he may have thought at that point in time, if she died of ingesting drugs at the house, that would take him down. He would lose the other kid too. He's already lost one. He'll lose Junior, and he'll probably go to prison. It probably would have happened to him. So yeah, that's the simplest viewpoint, is that there was drugs in the house. And so, and he might be mad at Misty because you weren't watching my kid well enough and she got into the damn drugs. Your damn fault. But then again, he might not want that to get out because he figured he'd go to prison. Of course, he did such a good job of, 1 year later he goes to prison anyway. So, but, nobody's ever confessed. And I don't know if we'll ever hear what actually happened to Haleigh, but I can pretty much guarantee that Joe Overstreet did not come in and kidnap her because he couldn't get a gun. I mean, that's just ludicrous. BLW said, my kids had pet rats. So did my oldest granddaughter. They're very bright. Somebody who agrees with me. Oh, nice. Okay. So it's rabies shots. They don't carry rabies. Yeah. Don't be no. Oh, you're talking about this. Okay. Sarah says sadistic infers enjoying the fear and pain of others. Sadism is one of those words which people can stretch one way or the other. And sadism, you can definitely enjoy. That is, yes, sadism. If you like to see people in fear, absolutely. That is one of the things that actually serial killers love, to see the fear in their victims' eyes, to know they're in terror before they do something to them, or even just rapists. I'm talking about violent rapists. They like to see the fear. That gives them that thrill of power and control again. So that is a form of sadism. There's all kinds of forms of sadism. Gaslighting is a form of sadism. Somebody you're married to, or you're in a relationship with, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, and that person gaslights you. That they're doing it because they get a thrill out of watching you squirm. So there is a level of sadism in that as well, because that's a cruel thing to do to somebody, and that somebody would enjoy the fact that you're suffering is not a good thing. And one of the ways to explain this, because I explain this oftentimes when I talk about playing a game of table tennis. If I play a game of table tennis with somebody, I do want to beat them. I mean, people say, well, is that narcissism? Because you want to beat that person and they're going to feel bad. The difference is we're both going into this equal to experience the thrill of competition. And of course, both of us want to win. And when we win, we're excited for ourselves. We do not necessarily relish that the sadness the other person would feel. We feel bad for them, as a matter of fact. It's like, oh man, I'm sorry. Sorry I beat you. I'm glad I beat you, but I'm sorry. We actually do have that. I feel that way when I see somebody lose, and I know what they're feeling. So I'm not doing it because I get a thrill out of their suffering. They say, oh man, I'm so pissed I lost. I'm like, I'm happy to see you sweating over there. No, that's sadism, and that's so it's more a case of enjoying somebody else's suffering, causing it also, but enjoying it as well. Oh no, mice are cute too. So like we're talking about a missing child, and we're talking now about mice and rats. I don't know what happened to this program, but Ayla Reynolds. Yes, I'm going to do an Ayla Reynolds thing one of these days. Yeah, that's an interesting case. Yeah, I have to do one on that one. Paul Bernardo was definitely a sadist, and so was his creepy little wife. What's her face? Carla Homolka. She was that way too. She sure was. Oh, that's kind of horrifying. My brother-in-law had snakes. I remember his bopping the mice on the heads. He had to separate the snakes to feed them. Not fun holding the pillowcase. Oh, that is, yeah. I never could have snakes for that reason, because I felt too sorry. I could not hurt the rats and mice. I love lizards, but I prefer iguanas who eat vegetables. So there we go. All right, let me finish up here. Molly says, Pat, you saw it probably no one else saw, and the possibility there was a second small mattress in the bedroom. A little detail that may well have huge implications. Your glasses from Amazon did it. Yeah, $35. You can also buy them CVS trifocals. They're the most fabulous things ever. Just love it. Look, I got to do. I don't get paid for this, but I have 4 of these in my house because they're $35. Instead of going to the eye doctor and having to get fancy ones, I can look at this right here and read it, and then I can look at the computer and read it clearly, and I can look across the room and see everything. It's reading, computer, and empty on the top. $35. It's fabulous. But yes, these small details. This is why, again, a good crime analyst, and maybe a good group of crime analysts. And I really love the concept of a group of crime analysts. We don't have to all have big fat egos that I'm the one who could solve it and none of you can. No, we all put in these ideas. And what's interesting is that sometimes one of the reasons I like when I was doing investigation is to go talk to people in the neighborhood, because they know things I don't know. They see things in a different way than me. You can ask a 3-year-old and they see things differently than you because they're short little things close to the ground. And you're like, dang, I never thought about that, because we don't look at things down there. Male point of view, female point of view, cultural point of views, all of these things are somewhat different for each person, and from each viewpoint. So kind of like the story about the elephant, where the blind men are all touching the elephant and they don't know they're all touching the same thing, but one's feeling a trunk and describing it as a snake, and the other one's feeling the leg and saying it's a big tree. When you have different people coming from different viewpoints, at least they can all get together and hopefully describe the elephant, and then figure out who that elephant is. So I like people, detectives having a good detective, not just one detective on the case, but a group of detectives bringing in experts to be involved in the investigation, because they might, for example, if you're in a small department, you may have only seen 1 or 2 homicides in your history. That's where I always laugh in a sad way, when person says, "Oh my God, it's the worst thing I've ever seen." And I'm like, because I've seen hundreds. I'm not at hundreds of homicide scenes. Hundreds of autopsy photos, hundreds of crime scene photos. I've seen hundreds of cases. I've seen pretty much everything. Pretty much everything. So all of it's not good. All of it is sad. All of it is quite gruesome, but you do get used to it. So what happens is you're able to look at it without getting all overly emotional, and you've seen it before, and you've also seen the circumstances around that particular case, different cases with something similar. So you can bring in your experience of, okay, I have seen this before, and this is what I think. This indicates this particular piece of evidence. But again, it's not in stone. So, it's not a proclamation. It's a determination based on what you see, but the determination is not a proclamation. It could be wrong. It could be, and nothing's perfect. And this is, and evidence isn't even perfect, because it gets distorted and it gets ruined and it gets missing. And then things can even be added to the scene that aren't even part of the scene. Somebody can drop something, or somebody can actually disturb the scene by adding things to it, if they want to. And then you look at that and you go, oh, this is part of the scene, and it's not even part of the scene. So you get then that's a big, huge red herring that chucks you in the wrong direction. So we have to be a little humble in the sense that we'll see what happens, and see whether we're right or wrong. But that it's a process that the investigators go through. And if you're a profiler on a team of investigators or working with them or reviewing, it's still a process, and it's a tool you use to try to figure out what happened, and try to, find out who committed the crime and bring some justice. And it's, it's a work in progress. DC, why do you think this case didn't blow up like Summer Wells? Oh, no, it did. It did at the time. It was everywhere at the time. And then after a while, people just sort of, Ronald went to prison, Misty went to prison. Time went on, the body was never found. And at a certain point, it's been 13 years. Summer Wells has not been 13 years yet. And now it is quieting down quite a bit from what it was a ways back. A ways back, everybody was on it. Also, we have more internet now than we used to. We have more crime channels. Back then, 2009. I wasn't doing anything on the internet. I was doing all, HLN and CNN and MSNBC, Fox, the major networks. I was doing, hits with them. but there was no internet that I was involved with. So not like this. I might get emails after doing shows that I got, but there wasn't this ongoing communication thing that we have with YouTube and Instagram and all that crap. So, this has changed the world of that, keeping things alive. But I think it was huge at the time. And actually in a strange way, a much more interesting case with many more peculiar people than even in the Wells case. Yeah, well, that long ago, 2009, 13 years. Yeah. Yep. Sarah says, you have to be open-minded, but I'm sure the more minds, the better. The more minds, yes, but also the more trained minds. I want to point that out. I think training is extraordinarily important, which is why sometimes what happens on the internet with armchair profiling goes so badly, because those aren't trained minds. Those are curious minds, and people thinking, oh, I got this, and they come up with things, and you're kind of like, no, that is not how it works. You're way off, completely missing everything, because you have to be trained to understand how crime works, how criminals work, what evidence means. You have to be trained, and you're still not going to be 100%. I mean, I say this with Ken Maines. Ken Maines sometimes has had an opinion different from mine. We're both trained, but I'm not saying he's wrong and I'm right, or I'm right and he's wrong. How did I say that? Or he's right and I'm wrong. Did I almost end up right all the time? Anyway, but only time would tell. And it doesn't matter, even if it turns out I'm right and he's wrong, he's not, like, people shouldn't go, oh my God, see, Ken, you were wrong, or vice versa. Ken is right and I'm wrong. And they go, oh, Pat, you should have been there. That kind of. Stop the nonsense. We're not here to be perfect, and we're not here to say we're right. We're here to teach. I think Ken Maines is trying to do that too, trying to explain things. I'm trying to explain things because we want better investigation in the future, and we want the public to understand investigation better. And is it nice when you analyze something and it turns out that you're kind of on the money? Yeah, it's like, because if you've had training. If you're trained to do this, you want to be at least a good portion of the time on the right track. I mean, if you always wrong, you're in the wrong line of business, because there are people who go through training and suck. Just because you've become a detective, because you become an FBI profiler, just you become an independent profiler, or whatever, doesn't mean you're good. You can be absolutely sucky at what you do. There are bad doctors, bad lawyers, bad teachers, and they have degrees. So the idea is to have enough good people out there to hopefully do a better job in the law enforcement field, so that we solve more cases. That's what we hope. That's what we hope. So after this freak show, I don't want to go to the circus, but I just went to the circus last night. Was it last night? Yeah, I went to the circus last night. I went to it was called Portugal. I think it's Portugal, D-O Portugal, or Portugal. I'm not sure how it's pronounced. The guy he's from, his name is Israel Portugal. I think he's from Mexico. And he has a traveling circus that's been through Mexico and Costa Rica, but is now in the U.S. And I saw it right here in Maryland, and super, super fun. Super fun. Was not expensive, like $20. And, they have the tent in the parking lot, and bring the grandkid, and my daughter came up with it, and it was just a super fun evening. So if that comes to your town, go to it. So you do want to see a circus, just not this kind of circus. Not this kind of circus. Just a good question. Did they get nabbed for the drugs because they couldn't pin the disappearance on them, the sting? Would they do that and give them sentences way above what they should have gotten to hope that they might squeal? One would hope that is not exactly what they did, but on the other hand, especially with Misty, that's one hell of a long sentence she got. And I'm against drugs, and I'm for strong sentences, but I don't know how she got nailed for it. She really got nailed for a way longer sentence than Ronald. So I'm like, something's fishy with that. So I think you might be right. So, she's been missing a year or two. She's been missing for, are we talking 13 years? 2009, 13 years. Long time ago. So yeah, and it's funny because I had people ask me to do this case quite a few times, and it was going down memory lane for me because this was so long ago for me. I did so much on this, but and I'd written so much. I have so many blogs on this, and I'll actually link some of those below. But I'd forgotten what I'd written, so I had to go back and find my own blogs and like, oh, is that what I thought? But then I thought of some new things because now I'm looking at it from a distance. I'm reviewing the case that I looked at before, so it was interesting to go back and do that again. But now the memories are coming back about the whole thing. But I'd forgotten so many of the details over the years, and I just, if you live in Florida and there's alligators, that's a great place to get rid of bodies. It really is. You're talking about Summer Wells. Oh yeah, Summer Wells that's recent. I'm sorry, I thought you were talking about Haleigh. No, Summer Wells is very recent, and no, they haven't found her body, and no, they haven't arrested anybody. So, yeah, Misty's sentence I think was up to 25 years or something like that. Something crazy, really long. His was 15. She's still in prison. He's out. I don't quite get it. I really don't. I think she got over nailed on that one. But she hasn't said anything. Ronald hasn't said anything. Tommy hasn't said anything. Joe hasn't said anything. I don't know. Nobody said anything. So it's amazing, when you think about it. But people always say, what's the old joke that two men can keep? Was it 2 men can keep a secret if one of them is dead? But here we have maybe I think at least 3 people who know what happened, and it's been that long, almost a decade and a half, still nothing. So I disagree with a lot of people's feelings that people talk. I believe a lot of times people do not talk. They cannot say anything. They wouldn't even do a deathbed confession. They'll take that straight to the grave. So I think we say that because it makes us feel good. I don't think it's true. I think a whole lot of people kill and never say another word. And interesting, once they get away with it, they have no reason to say anything ever again. They take that, especially if they're psychopathic, they take that incident and they put it in the past. And I'm done with that. It happened. I can't fix it. I'm done. Which in general is a really good life philosophy, for other things, to be able to put the past behind you and move on. Well, some people are psychopaths are really good at that because they don't really give a crap about what they did before. They move on really well. So they don't have to talk and think about that. Now, somebody like a serial killer, they like to think about their crimes over and over and over again because the crimes thrilled them. In this particular instance, this is not a crime anybody was probably thrilled about. I don't think anybody wanted to hurt Haleigh. I don't believe so. I believe it's another one of those cases where you have a bunch of volatile people doing bad things, and Haleigh got somehow in a crossfire in whatever way she did. But I don't believe that anybody wanted to kill her. Therefore, the parent can feel bad that the kid is dead. Sometimes we see true emotion from Misty feeling like, oh my God, I like the little girl. And Ronald going, hey, that was my kid. And, so it's not that you can't have emotion. It's just that you don't want to go to prison over it. It's like it was an accident or nobody planned it or whatever. So, but that doesn't, they had say they're that whole group of people. What a mess. What an absolute mess. Reminds me of Madeleine McCann. Yeah. Yeah. And, that's been a really long time now. And again, people say, well, if one of the parents was involved in covering up that particular crime, wouldn't they have broken by now? And again, the answer is no. You make a pact with that other person or with yourself, and you say, this is the story, and we're sticking with it. And you stay with it forever. You can do that. Whatever that story is. People, it's not a problem. I don't know why people think it's such a big deal. It is not that hard for many people to do, especially when it's protecting them and maybe their other children, and they say this is the way it's going to be, and they never break. What is the capacity for grief and remorse in drug users? Zero capacity. I would say it's not. They have grief. I mean, a lot of drug users do have grief because they're out of control, and they do care about elements of their lives and children and people around them. And that's one of the sad things is like, you can see that at moments they really do love being around their kids and stuff. It's just the problem is their love of drugs is supersedes that. And you could say, well, if you really loved your kid, you shouldn't be doing the damn drugs, which is accurate. And at some point, you do make that choice. And oftentimes the kid loses. And yeah, but it doesn't mean you don't have some caring. That I've seen people who the whole family just like one after the other gets shot down. The kids are getting involved in gangs, the kids are getting involved in drugs, and their mother's out there like every 2 years, the mother's out there going, "I've lost another one," and you're like, Jesus, how many kids have you lost? Well, I know 3 of them so far, and she is crying and she's brokenhearted. She knows she didn't provide the best life for her kids, but maybe she believes she couldn't under the circumstances, whatever those circumstances were. And when you're living in circumstances that aren't good, you don't seem like you're so far off the mark. So in other words, when you get pregnant at 16, it's not that big a deal because so many are getting pregnant at 16. So you're not married. A lot of people aren't married. So your boyfriend's a drug dealer. He's just trying to make some money. So, you have ways of justifying a lot of stuff and enjoying certain aspects. Like, oh, look at the cute baby. Everybody thinks I have a cute baby. I think I have a cute baby. Isn't it cute? I love my baby. And, and then the baby gets a little older and your boyfriend kills it, because you live in a hornet's nest. And yeah, sad, very, very sad. Oh, look how long Sherry Papini got away with her insanity. Well, she had an adult for a husband. Her husband finally realizes he is adult. He finally said that. I always say women who are Munchausen syndrome by proxy, they have adults for husbands. And Keith Papini finally said, I'm an idiot. I stood by her and believed everything went. And now he supposedly is divorcing her and wants to keep the kids away from her. And here's the weird thing. I hope he never goes back. But sometimes these dolts, even though they say that, will then at some point forgive her and go back. I'm waiting to make sure. Please, Keith, don't do it. Don't be a redolt. And as far as the court system goes, here's the really creepy thing about that. Sherry Papini has confessed to the huge hoax. The kids are not in her custody. She's in prison, but not for long enough. She will get out when I think it was not even very long, like 18 months or something. She'll get out in good behavior early, and then she will go back and say, I have been to therapy. I recognize where I had all kinds of emotional problems that led me to do this crazy thing. And they will probably they'll probably start allowing her to see her children again and let her back in her children's lives because she's cured. She's a psychopath, but she'll fake somebody out. So that's true. Hopelessness breeds helplessness. There's a lot of truth in that. It's very, very sad. There's a lot of truth in that. Truly. So yeah. Anyway, I guess I should wrap this up. So anyway, if you've been here for the whole show and you're still here and you're new, please do subscribe to the channel and join Patreon if you'd like to be here. See, I have great people here in the chat room. I love you guys. You're awesome. So just fantastic. Makes for a great conversation. And also, I like doing live shows because it's really nice to have people I'm communicating with and not always just a camera, staring me in the face, and you just feel that deadness out there when you're just talking to a camera. So it's really nice to have people in the chat room. And that's why I do all of my case shows live, because it's much more enjoyable and I like to have fun. So as Sarah says, thank you so much, Pat. I don't catch you often enough. Oh, well, I wish you were here more often, but you probably have a life. You know how that goes. There's at least 8 shows a month, at least that. So I try to put in enough. Michaela says, thank you, Pat, for another great show. No, I think I need therapy. Oh, I hope not. Oh my goodness. Well, one of these days I'll do one on, what's his name? Luke Magnotta. What is that his name? I forgot his name now. Magnotta, the one guy up in Canada who he killed the guy and then kind of chopped him up on video. And I did see the video, and I think kind of fed them to. I think he fed parts to a rabbit. It was horrifying. And then there's these people called something about the cat people. I forgot what the name of the cool video. And so I'm going to watch that whole thing and see. This is the one time where the internet really did help catch somebody. And Luca Magnotta, I think, thank you, Luca Magnotta. Forgot his name. And After I watched that video, which almost nobody has seen except people like me, yeah, not pleasant. Not pleasant. That's when afterwards you finish it like, let me go watch a Disney movie. I'm going to see, maybe a Lassie movie. Something really pleasant to try to wash that out of your head, which is usually doesn't go away. I got a little part of my brain is like over here, and and I stash all that crap in there and try to block it out. No, oh yeah, don't with an F with cats. I'm gonna watch that. I want to see. It's been a long time. I did a lot of work with Canada AM. Canada AM. I did talk about that case when it came out, and that's when I watched the lovely video. I don't even know if it's still in existence. It's one of those channels that has stuff on it nobody should see. And so I watched it, and I did not see the thing about how they caught him and the cat people there. So I got to check all that out. I think it's really fascinating. So I'm going to do a whole show on that because, yeah, I'm going to definitely do a show on that. I have to. DC says, I haven't been through the whole catalog yet, but great channel, great insight. Well, thank you. I mean, it's over time, I realized how many videos I've done on so many. I was like, got a tickle in my throat. On so many cases. And as everybody brings in more cases, one of the things I thought when I started the channel was, well, how long can I keep this channel going? I don't know if I got enough to talk about. And my case list now is like a couple hundred long already. And I'm like, man, I'm going to have to be alive till I'm 90 or 95 at least to do all these cases. But it's been amazing because there's so many cases I have never even heard of that people are bringing to me. And I'm just fascinated. I'm like, this is a cool case. And so there's always something interesting. So it's turned out to be a pretty great ride. And yeah, so now I've got quite a lot of, again, people who are here. If you want to know if I've done something, you just put in profiler Pat Brown and whatever name of the victim or the killer and see what I've already done a show on it. You can also just go to case files in my playlist and just run through them all. And I also sometimes talk about different cases in a shorter version on my Hangouts because sometimes I just don't have enough for a 2-hour show. I'm not going to analyze everything because there's not that much to analyze. So I'll do a shorter version on the Hangouts because it's interesting and it may have 1 or 2 good points, but not enough for an entire show. So, yeah. So check that out too. I started out doing the Hangouts. I didn't have enough like hashtags on them. So I may have to go back and find out what I had in those Hangouts. But you can always just pick a Hangout and you'll find out what's in it. So anyway, let's see. I'm hoping for a show on the Dan Markle case. Well, see, now there's another one. I don't know who that is. Plenty of videos on YouTube for a first and second trial with the recent arrest of Charlie Adelson, a third. I have never heard of this. Okay, so this is what I do when I don't know what you're talking about. I take a picture with my phone. I have to see what that is all about. I'm probably also going to talk about Lucy Letby, the woman who is on trial in England right now for knocking off a whole bunch of babies. So, is there any solved cold case you found remarkable? Oh gosh, the answer to that would be yes. Do you want me to name it? Yes, but I have no memory, so I've never had a memory in my entire life. I have the worst memory ever. And that's why it's so funny when I do live shows. I'm like, and that is, and then you all have to fill in the blank. Yeah. And as I study more and more cases, my brain gets more and more filled up with massive amounts of names and of victims and of suspects and family members. And sometimes I'm just like totally lost. I'm like, which case am I on? Yes, but some of the cold cases that have finally been solved, I find it most interesting if they're able to solve a case with not just DNA, because that is the newest thing now, solving it with familial DNA or through the genealogical stuff. And they get lucky, essentially. They just matches luckily because the guy left DNA like 30 years ago and didn't know what DNA was. And now he's like nailed through genealogical. He's like, dang, that's interesting. But I'm more interested when they can actually go back and solve a cold case by reviewing all the things and figuring out what happened, which somehow maybe the original detective team didn't figure out, or the evidence wasn't there, whatever went wrong. So I'd have to think about that. I'm going to think about that. I might do, if I figure it out before the hangout, I'll bring that up during a hangout. Because I don't think I can remember it offhand. So anyway, thank you all for being here. Fantastic that you were here tonight. And sorry I moved the time from 3 p.m. to 7, but as I say, I was suddenly, my ex-husband was here making curry goat, and the family showed up, and we had a great second Thanksgiving, a Jamaican Thanksgiving, and it was really fun. So I just said, okay, I got to move it to 7 o'clock, and I really ate too much, and I'm supposed to be vegetarian, but man, he makes good curry goat. What can I say? So anyway, again, I'm glad you're here. And if you're new, please do subscribe to the channel. And I will see you. The hangout should be, I think, this Wednesday. At this moment, I'm thinking the hangout's going to be on Wednesday. And so hopefully I will see you there if you are available. And otherwise, I'll see you next Sunday-ish for whatever case I figure out to do. Bye.